Hi folks, this is video number 122 and the title is A Trip to the Bakery. A few days ago I emailed a short GIF file showing someone circumventing the gates at a European railroad crossing. I related in a note that something similar had happened to me while in Germany. My friend Rick replied that there must be more to the story and I should elaborate in the video. Well, he was correct. So as Paul Harvey would have said, here is the rest of the story. Location, Miesau, Germany. For those familiar with the Mahopany area, this town was about the size of Factoryville, or perhaps Tunkhannock, when it only had one traffic light. After a few months, all my drivers, operators, and mechanics have been trained in how to do technical inspections and how to complete the necessary scheduled services on any of our vehicles. Having reached that point, they only needed me on the floor, or in the pit I should say, to break loose the large shoulder bolt to which the emergency band brake was mounted, and then the band could be replaced. It was located at the end of the transmission, and the band wrapped a drum between the transmission and drive shaft. I was the only one with enough gravitational pull to break it loose. That allowed me to have weekends off just like everyone else, unless I came up on the duty roster for guard duty. My roommate George asked me to go to town with him to check out some of the shops and stop in the bakery. We had planned an evening of TV watching as a group. For 2 weeks, George was practicing counting to 100 in German. It's been almost 50 years, so I won't be trying to pronounce anything. I will include that little GIF file later. For my vision-impaired friends, I will do my best to describe the event. That Saturday came, and George had done a pretty good job of learning to count. So we took a walk into town. The edge of town was actually right across the street from our barracks. The shops were in the center of town. We visited a woodworking shop and some other craft shops, but the bakery was our main destination. George was really nervous. He really wanted to do well ordering in German. We went in and took a look at all the items. It was a small shop, but filled with wondrous goodies and smells. We discussed what we should purchase. Then George stepped up to the counter. The clerk was a young girl about 14 or 15 years old. In case you don't know, German kids go to school year-round and graduate at 15, then start college at 16. At least they did in this time frame. George started to order, pointing at the particular items and telling her in German numbers how many we wanted. The girl was writing it down. George was doing a fine job. He became very relaxed during the process, as we had a fairly large order. I don't recall a cash register. She just added it up and we would pay cash in marks, which was about the same as a quarter. When George finished ordering, this is when it got interesting. The young lady looks at George and down at her list and says in beautiful, perfect English, "Now, you want 2 eclairs, a dozen raisin cookies, etc., etc." The look on George's face was priceless. I think he actually went into shock for a minute. She saw it too. We both broke out in a good laugh. Then George got embarrassed. He was so intent on getting his German correct, we never thought to ask if she spoke English. Most Europeans learn English from our generation forward. Her parents came out from the kitchen to see what we were carrying on about. They did not speak English. She shared with them in German and conversed with us in English. They asked where we were from and what our jobs were in the Army. We met new people, had a good friendly conversation, and a little fun too. Heading back to the barracks, we came to the railroad crossing. These tracks were for the high-speed trains. In the U.S., usually when a train is approaching a crossing, the lights come on with bells ringing and the gates come down. It takes about 10 seconds or more for the gates to come down. In Germany it was the same, but the gate process took about 2 seconds. In the GIF, you see a white vertical wire fence attached to the crossbars. The wire fence locks in place. You can't duck under it. In the GIF, the guy actually forces his way past the point of a gate to try to cross before the train arrives. He also is pushing a bicycle. Just as he gets his bike completely through, the slower local train comes into the picture, and that is where the GIF ends. Our experience was a little different. This is the GIF of the bozo trying to cross the tracks after the gates have come down. George and I had just walked past the gate pole when it activated. Zip, the gates came down. We were trapped next to the tracks. In the GIF, you can see a sheep fence extending away from the gate pole along the track. It was the same for us. As soon as we realized we were in trouble, we spied a hole in the fence and dove through it. George went first. As soon as I got my feet through, the train came, traveling at least 100 miles per hour. We see trains in towns at usually not more than 35 miles per hour. If we had been near the tracks, the vacuum created by the train would have pulled us right in. The high-speed trains only had 6 or 8 passenger cars, so it was all over quickly. One thing I can say about the train system at that time, it was super efficient. If the train was to arrive at 1 o'clock, it was there at 1 o'clock. If it was scheduled to leave at 1:15, you had not better get there at 1:16 because your train would be 5 miles away by then. All those baked goods were for a little group TV watching event. Jerry was one of my mechanics and resided in the room next to ours. He bought a portable TV. That evening, the 7 of us gathered in Jerry's room. We each dragged in a chair. It was legal to drink in the barracks in Germany. It's a way of life. We had the local Park Brau beer from the vending machine downstairs, some Heineken, and scotch and whiskey, along with a nice selection of baked goods and cigars. We were really looking forward to watching Bonanza. It was, of course, the local rendition. The voices were dubbed in German. Closed captioning wasn't invented yet. The voices did not match very well at all to the Cartwright boys. The only thing that I'm sure all of us remember vividly is as follows. Haas walks out of the general store while talking to a young lady. He proceeds to untie his horse from the hitch rail, puts his foot in the stirrup, and hops up into the saddle. Then he tips his hat to the lady and says, "Auf Wiedersehen!" Please note that I do not know how to the proper spelling. It is a goodbye type phrase. What made that memorable? The voice sounded like a little girl in about the 3rd or 4th grade, high-pitched and squeaky. It had been an eventful day for George and I. He found that he could actually order baked goods in German and English. From that, we made some new friends and had some good conversation. From there, we momentarily thought we were going to die at the train crossing. That evening, my group had some good beverages, baked goods, and cigars. Also, we almost fell out of our chairs laughing as we watched Bonanza in German and poor Haas with that little girl voice. A good day all around. There is a previous story relating to an incident with George in the motor pool shop. The title is George's Rocket. It is video number 32. As usual, all the best to everyone.